Good afternoon. Welcome to the December 30th edition of Sports on Sunset. I'm Peter Flaccidius.
I'm Savory Johnson.
Let's get started with some NFL quick takes. Just a couple at the end of the season. I didn't really learn a lot about anything today other than the obvious. I will say this, though. Out of all of the coaches that you will hear that are on the hot seat to get fired, there is one that I think should most definitely get another chance.
Lovey's? No, not Lovey's.
Well, I have another argument for that in a moment. Ken Whisenhunt of the Arizona Cardinals. Here's why. I think if you have a team and that plays poorly, the question becomes, can this guy that we have here solve the problem? The Cardinals, with the exception of one game against Seattle, played excellent defense all year. They had followed the Pittsburgh model. The problem with Arizona was that poor offensive line, which crushed their quarterback, crushed 3 or 4 quarterbacks, crushed 3 or 4 running backs. They had nothing other than some schlub trying to chuck the ball to Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
That's a fixable problem.
Yeah.
And I think it can be fixed with Ken Whisenhunt. You get rid of him, and unless you promote the defensive coordinator, if the defensive coordinator is gone instead of being promoted to head coach, you've now created an even bigger problem.
Started off 4-0 as well.
Precisely. Go ahead.
NFL teams. Here's my take on today, last week of the season, regular season. If you are waiting or relying on another team to help you make the playoffs, you don't deserve to make the playoffs. There were 3 teams. The Giants had to hope for 3 teams to lose today just to make the playoffs. You don't deserve it.
Now, with that said, going on with the whole thing about coaches being hired and fired, virtually every other coach, there is an argument that can be made. With that said, the only argument that resonates with me with regards to firing Lovie Smith is he's been there for 9 years. And when you are at any job as a head coach for a particular length of time, after a while, regardless of whatever skills you have as a coach, after a while the message gets lost. Pat Riley only stayed with the LA Lakers for 9 years, and they started to tune him out. And that was a Hall of Fame team with a Hall of Fame coach. Now, I'm not suggesting Lovie Smith is a Hall of Fame coach, but that's the only reason that resonates with me to get rid of him. All the other problems with the Bears I thought were personnel related, not head coach. Next take.
The schedule makers for the NFL, you guys suck. This last week of this season, the worst games ever on television. The Titans, I even forgot who the Titans were playing. The Titans were playing I think Jacksonville. No playoff implications whatsoever. Everybody knows it doesn't matter. If you have time, schedule makers next year, I'm not saying make everything a divisional rivalry on the last week of the season, but have some drama there. Make it so that when the Patriots went 19, tried to go undefeated to the Super Bowl, every game mattered because they were trying to win every game. That doesn't work now. Schedule sucks.
Steven Jackson of the St. Louis Rams has been talking retirement this week. A lot of times when a player does that, it's usually a ploy to get more money. I don't think it's a ploy to get more money, and I don't think necessarily, though, that he wants to retire. I think he's right now kind of a conflicted guy, but if I were him, I don't think I'd leave the Rams. I don't think I would retire. This is not the Detroit Lions we're looking at. I saw the Rams play for the last, pretty intensely for the last month and a half and all year long, and that is a team that you don't want to trifle with. If they can solve their offensive line problems, them with Steven Jackson, dangerous.
That's probably why he's trying to retire, because of the line.
Yeah.
But I like to end my takes on a solid, happy note. In a past episode, I made light of the fact that there's a lot of pro athletes that try to go Hollywood, as it were. Well, most of those players, most of those athletes that end up going to Hollywood are NFL players that drop out of the league and never get heard from again, like Terry Crews. He was NFL defensive lineman, dropped out of the NFL after an injury. Well, the one person that I think would make a great actor that's in the NFL right now, Wes Welker. He has the timing, the comedic sense, and he's, if you let him talk, completely unabashed. And I can appreciate that in an actor. He called Tom Brady a metrosexual. And he meant gay, but he said metrosexual.
His own teammate.
Yeah. And that is the kind of person we need in Hollywood. Come on, Smoker.
Friends, instead of debating a particular topic of the week and ranting, because this is the end of the year, we want to talk about certain things that happened this year, not in terms of what is the best of this or what is the worst of that. We want to talk about topics that will impact beyond just the event that happened this year, things that are going to resonate through next year and probably beyond. We have a few topics each. We're going to basically say our takes and rip each other or whatever as it goes along. I'll start off. I think one thing that is definitely going to resonate beyond this year is the NHL lockout. I don't think it should have gotten to this point at all, and possibly 2 full seasons in a little more than a decade or a little less than a decade gone.
Yeah.
Due to a commissioner-inspired stoppage.
Complete ineptness.
Yeah. And the first time you can kind of understand why there was a stoppage, but not necessarily lose a season. They wanted a salary cap, the NHL commissioner did. They wanted something called cost certainty. So they lost a season, they got cost certainty, and now they want more. And if you're a guy like me, and again, I think most of my friends know I'm a conservative, we tend to not trust unions. But with that said, just because I don't necessarily trust unions doesn't mean that they're always wrong. This is not a case of the players want millionaires arguing with billionaires. This is a case of billionaires just saying, we don't feel like doing this. And I've got a huge problem with that. The impact beyond this current thing. What happens to the NHL if they lose 2 full seasons in a decade? What happens to the Stanley Cup champion LA Kings? Do they lose money in the backlash? This is the number 2 media market. You need a team in a major media market to dominate so that it gains attention and grows the sport. Now you've taken that away. I've been a Kings fan. But before the first lockout, I went to 10, 12, 15 games a year, including the road to Phoenix and San Jose as well as Anaheim. I loved watching hockey. But it was 5 years after the lockout before I went back.
Yeah.
Why? And I don't want to give the NHL any money now. So go ahead.
How is it? There are minor league hockey leagues, like semi-pro hockey leagues.
Yeah.
How have they not taken over?
You mean in terms of taking over for the NHL in terms of popularity?
Like during the NBA lockouts, you had the minor leagues trying their best. I've not heard anything from any minor league. Because
the NHL feeds the players to the minor league teams.
No, I don't mean like the
baseball.
I don't mean like the feeders. I mean the semi-pro leagues. Like there are other leagues besides the NHL that exist, and they've done a piss poor job of trying to get in.
Well, the better ones are overseas, and they're trying to pull players out of the NHL. It also goes beyond that, also in the sense that for would teams, for example, possibly, what happens to some of the teams that aren't popular? And also in addition to that, it's like going back to my team, the Kings, being a young team, you've taken a year away from them possibly building a dynasty, which is incredibly difficult. So you've damaged at least one major media market. You've pissed off all the fans from the small market clubs. You've made longtime fans not want to play. This is 2 full seasons. It's one thing to lose a World Series. The baseball suffered a huge black eye from that. what I'm also saying this is that it's possible. Could Major League Soccer switch to a later schedule, like FIFA wants them to do?
Could happen.
And in doing so, in playing from fall to spring as opposed to spring to fall, could they, in theory, take on the NHL?
Well, they'd also be losing to the NBA by doing that.
Well, but how much? Therein lies the rub, because technically that's what the NHL does.
Well, the NHL tries to schedule around the NBA season because, you have to. They basically play in the same places.
Yeah.
But the MLS would be going directly against because they don't play in the same places.
Yeah.
They would be playing in the same stadiums. So they have games scheduled at the same time. So you have whatever soccer fans having to try to choose, and basketball fans having to try to choose between one sport or the other.
Oh, I think basketball would win out, but I think
Yes,
it also wins out a lot now against hockey. What's your first issue?
My first issue, something that will have long-term ramifications down the line, even for the future, even for now. Pat Summitt retired this year after winning. She was already the Division I's most winningest head coach. She won more than Wooden, Dean Smith. She's won more than everybody. Her last season she coached while everybody knows that she has early onset dementia. What this means is that they allowed someone who technically was not all there to coach for an entire year. If you can allow that, then what won't you allow from a coach? Like, if you're allowing somebody in a sport that is technically a very cerebral sport, you have to know the X's and O's of basketball. It's not all just dribble, shoot. There's a game plan. You have to scout. You have to be able to sell your university.
Is it possible it's a female thing? And I understand that that's a sexist way to put it. But the reason I bring it up is there was a player for UConn. She had blown out her knee or blown out with some part of her leg, and she was like 1 point shy of being the all-time.
You're thinking Keisha Sales.
Right, and so what happened was that they positioned her under the basket. They threw a tip-off, and both teams had agreed to it. They chucked the ball to her under the basket so she could have an uncontested layup.
Right.
And then they gave the other team a basket, and therefore it was 2-2. And people were aghast that this would happen.
And rightfully so.
And yet Gina Ariema says you don't understand the nature of women's basketball.
Well, that's just Gina Ariema talking stupid again.
Okay.
What that was a travesty in and of itself. People lose out their careers to injury. It happens. Keisha Sales should not have gotten the record. Plain and simple. I'm not the first to say that. I'm just one of the ones that believes it. As far as it being just the women's side of the sport, it's not. It's happened in men's side of the sport as well.
I hope the ladies understand. I'm trying to ask it fairly. But whatever.
I'm talking about as far as donating points and being sportsmanlike.
Yeah. That's
happened in the male side of the sport as well. As far as a coach doing this, there are coaches that people believe aren't all there on the men's side as well. How long did Jerry Tarkanian coach? People believe he was nuts. Bobby Knight coached well past his prime, shouldn't have been coaching Texas Tech. Lou Holtz shouldn't have been coaching again after he left Notre Dame. Shouldn't, but he did. So it's not just the women's side of the sport. It's what are people allowing these coaches to do when they could just Holly Warwick could have been the coach last year and had a full year melding an entire program together without Pat Summitt's shadow. She should be in her second year of head coach. That's what I'm trying to say. But that's neither here nor there.
Second thing that I think has impact beyond this immediate year is the purchase of the Los Angeles Dodgers by the Guggenheim Group. The Dodgers at this time, 1 year ago, were in bankruptcy court. Then a $2 billion purchase of the team from the group. And in addition to that, at least $500 million in added salary included for new players to upgrade the team. Now, the impact was not necessarily in titles. They didn't win the title. They didn't get to the playoffs. It was about the reason this matters is the flow of money. You sign. They rebuild the team on the fly. They signed, for example, Zach Greinke from the Angels as a starting pitcher about a month ago. Now the Angels have extra money. They can't replace a pitcher. What do? They overpay for Josh Hamilton. The Dodgers earlier this year, they made a couple of major trades where they took on a lot of salary. They made a massive trade with the Red Sox for Adrian Gonzalez, Josh Beckett, Carl Crawford, to name three. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, pulling that money away from the Red Sox, pulling those contracts from the Red Sox, freed money for the Red Sox, which enabled them to spend big on replacements, although I think they overpaid for a couple of guys.
Well, certainly.
And then, of course, now the Blue Jays, they wanted to keep up with the Red Sox and the Yankees, so they went crazy, and they added payroll. And then, of course, the Dodgers traded for Hanley Ramirez from the Marlins was the start of the self-destruction of the Miami franchise. So the reason that this matters, billions upon billions upon billions of dollars are flowing just all over Major League Baseball because of one team. And oh, by the way, the owner is black. We didn't even mention that. Oh, by the way, the owner does analyst work for the NBA on ESPN. I mean, all these little side topics, these weird little side topics, but the major thing is how much money is flowing all over the major leagues right now because of that.
I think the main issue there, my main problem with that would be that you have it's another big market team that is spending a lot of money. It's not like it's the Minnesota Twins spending all this money. It's still the big markets.
And yet, we still have the Toronto Blue Jays are not necessarily big market, and the Angels want to be big market, but they're not LA. They claim they're LA, but they're not.
Right.
Next take, brother.
I think my next take will be Floyd Mayweather Jr. All this year, people have been badgering him, why won't you fight Pacquiao? Why won't you fight Pacquiao? Now, I've made no secret of my beliefs of Pacquiao and what I believe he's doing, and what Floyd Mayweather believed he was doing. And I'm pretty sure these last couple of fights have proved at least Mayweather right. Floyd Mayweather wanted Olympic-style testing, which means he wants you tested before the fight, like both fighters will be tested before the fight, and then tested after the fight, right? Pacquiao said no, because I would feel weak. Neglect the fact that Mayweather would also feel the same sort of weak. It's not like you can, no, he's one person, no, both will get it. My point is this is having long-term ramifications because now I believe boxing is cleaning up and falling out of the steroid era. Because Floyd Mayweather won't fight anyone unless they submit to this style of testing, people have to clean up now. Pacquiao, I believe, went off the juice. And he hasn't been as fast as he once was. And he's not reacting as quick as he once was. And that's why he got knocked the fuck out. He came in at a bad angle, true. He got hit with a hard punch, true. But old Pacquiao would have been able to roll with that punch because his reflexes would have caught it and he would have been able to move out the way, kept going. But when you get hit and you're normal, you're just all adrenaline, and all the adrenaline shuts off, that's it. So good job for Pacquiao cleaning up, not being on the steroids anymore. I don't give a damn for suing. I don't have any money. But if this is what's going to clean boxing up, because it's been dirty since Evander Holyfield was fighting George Foreman. Holyfield was dirty too. Everybody knows this. Jake Balco. But if this is what's going to clean up boxing, it's for the better. The Klitschko brothers should not have a monopoly on boxing. It should not be like this. More Americans should have, well, better boxers. That's this.
AEG, the Anschutz Entertainment Group, arrived in LA as an unknown. They bought the LA Kings out of bankruptcy in the mid to late 1990s. Since then, Phil Anschutz owns Staples Center, Home Depot Center, LA Live, part of the Lakers, the O2 Arena in England. He at one time owned 6 Major League Soccer teams, including the Galaxy. His group was the group that brought David Beckham to the United States. The Sports Business Journal and the Tour de California bike race. The Sports Business Journal called the guy the 5th most influential person in sports. And now he wants out. So what becomes of the defending champion, even if the lockout previously mentioned in the NHL, when ownership changes, what becomes of the teams? What becomes of the LA Kings? What becomes of the Galaxy? What about the NFL coming back to LA? AEG was the group that was supposed to build Farmers Field. They might still happen. I mean, for all we know, he's getting rid of all these other properties so he could focus on the NFL, but we don't know his plans.
Right.
We just don't know his plans. AEG is up for sale. Bids have been submitted. It is believed the asking price is $5 billion. And if you're saying, gee, James, there's a financial theme to everything you're bringing about, the answer is yeah, because these are the impacts. To me, these are the things that will impact a lot of different properties out there and a lot of different teams.
Yeah.
Including the NFL possibly coming back to LA. Next take.
Yeah. The last time that Hines Ward played football this year was during a movie. During the Dark Knight Rises.
For the Gotham Rogues.
Yes. That is the last time we get to see Hines Ward play football. I bring this up as a lasting impact, mainly because Hines Ward was a great wide receiver. Great wide receiver. Tough wide receiver. He's the receiver that every high school kid should model himself after. Not Jerry Rice, not Steve Largent, not Chris Carter, Hines Ward. He was tough, he blocked, he did everything right. With the exception of his last game being in a movie. I don't know if it was the Steelers or him that forced him into retirement, because it damn sure wasn't his body. You deserve better, Hines Ward. All NFL players.
He survived the implosion of Rogue.
He was the only one. Everybody else died on the field. He's the only one. Bane didn't even shoot him. He shot everybody else, but he didn't.
Oh, Bane loved the return.
Yeah, it was a good return.
Yeah.
He could have crossed many a field. But Hines Ward deserves better. All NFL players at the twilights of their career deserve better than to find out that their last game is in a movie. Chris Carter's last game, no, Michael Irvin's last game wasn't the longest yard. His last game was an NFL game. That's all.
Final one for me. The Miami Marlins fleeced the rest of the city for a $600 million domed stadium. And it's horrifying because, again, mentioning the political conservatism thing, that doesn't mean that I do not believe in that there's such a thing as corporate welfare. There is. Corporate welfare. There most definitely is. Publicly funded $600 million gone. They were told, the people of Miami were told, you'd have a beautiful stadium where you'd be able to come in and watch a competitive team, and all these people will come from all over the place to watch this great baseball team play in this sparkling new stadium. And how many times did they hear the line from Field of Dreams, if you build it, you know, they will come. So Miami, the Marlins, I should say, got, you know, once the Marlins got this brand new stadium, they tried to compete for 3 months. They had a payroll for 3 months that was at $111 million, only the 8th highest in the majors at the time, by the way. Then, 3 months into the season, they got rid of virtually everybody. Josh Johnson, Hanley Ramirez, Carlos Zambrano, Jose Reyes, Anibal Sanchez, Heath Bell, Mark Burley, Yaniel Escobar, Carlos Lee, Omar Infante. The list goes on and on and on. And depending on what your source is, that payroll that was at $111 million plummeted to as low as 16. Only 3 people on the Marlins make more than $1 million a year. 3 people. Now, that's an outrage. I'm not a Marlins fan, but that's an outrage. That's a fleecing of an entire city. Because when you have a new stadium, the value of the team goes up, which means it becomes, even with a low pay, and of course we cut the payroll, it becomes more valuable in terms of the ability to sell the team. So you've raised the value of the team, you've cut the expenses to make it more, to just basically fleece everybody and stuff your own pockets. The owner of the Marlins, Jeffrey Loria, by the way, that's the guy who did this. So what is the impacts of something like this? Well, if you live in Miami, why would you ever watch the Marlins play? What's the point? Because if because you know that there is not only is there not a commitment to win, they robbed you blind and then don't have a commitment to win. Why would anybody who is a free agent who has anybody else want them to play, why would that guy go to Miami? If another team wants you to play for them, why would you go to Miami? The Cubs lose, but they don't try to lose. The Cubs at least try to say, we are going to compete. And the fans at least recognize that. So players have no compelling reason to trust. The fans have no compelling reason to trust. And in addition to that, if I'm in another city and I help run the city, if I'm the mayor of, say, Oakland, California, why would I even think about building a stadium for the Oakland A's? And Oakland definitely, their stadium's pretty crusty. Commissioner Bud Selig went after Frank McCourt, completely hands off for what happened with the Marlins. It's over $500 million flushed away.
I look forward to the Miami Marlins playing next year with Roger Dorn and Ricky Vaughn and Willie Mays Hayes.
Yeah.
That was the plot of Major League. He just executed the plot of Major League. Somebody saw the fucking Charlie Sheen movie and like, that was a great idea.
Yeah.
I would do that. That's an owner.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move the team to Oakland.
Well, I mean, he's not going to move the team to Oakland, but
or somewhere else.
Sell the team.
Yeah.
And he'll sell the team for upwards. He'll probably wind up selling the team for upwards of $700 million or something like that. Crazy.
Major League.
An absolute ripoff. And of course, baseball has no accountability for somebody ripping off a city that badly. Next take.
I guess I'm gonna end with. Well, yeah, we talked about this, I want to say 12 episodes ago. Junior Seau suicide. Last year, not this year, Dave Duerson committed suicide. Shot himself in the chest because he believed he was going crazy due to football injuries. Turns out, due to him shooting himself in the chest and saving his brain and donating it to science, he was proven somewhat correct. His brain, due to football injuries, had essentially turned on him. Junior Seau shot himself in the chest, donated his brain to science. We've heard nothing yet. this is going to make a lasting impact because one of my favorite Bears of all time. I hope you noticed the theme. Announced earlier this year that he too has early onset dementia. Jim McMahon, who was never one of the sanest people to play football in the first place.
Well, he's a little bit.
Yeah. Stabbed himself in the eye with a fork when he was a kid. So, you know, not completely sane. Jim, don't do it. Please. I'm begging you. You're a great guy. A little weird, but you're still a great guy. For any other NFL player that is going through brain injury type things that, like Jim McMahon in the 80s, banging his head with his offensive lineman even though he was told not to. Don't go shooting yourself in the chest to prove a point. You've already given your body to football. Don't give your life to football. Don't give your life to sport to prove a point. It's just a game. Your life is more important. Your family believes your life is more important. Stop going off the rails, man. All of you. Stop.